Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Force Feed, the show where I keep you up to date on all recent gaming news and announcements. Today is Wednesday, November 30th, 2011, and let's just jump into today's gaming news. If you head on over to Best Buy and purchase the PlayStation 3D TV bundle for $499, you can get your very own PS3 for only $100. There was recently an ad posted advertising this deal. Once again, it's going to work as follows. You head on over to Best Buy, purchase the TV bundle for $499, which is going to come with your 3D TV glasses and a copy of MotorStorm Apocalypse. And then if you only spend an extra $100, you will get your own PS3. My only concern about this is if you don't already own a PlayStation 3, why are you going to get a PS3 3D TV bundle? This just seems very unlikely. It seems like a very unlikely scenario that someone who does not already have a PlayStation 3 will be getting, hey, I don't have a PS3, even though it's been out for a few years, but I really want this 3D TV bundle and a $100 PlayStation 3. I mean, just a few days ago, you could have got a PlayStation 3 for only $200. And I feel like if anyone was still on the fence about owning a PS3, they probably would have gotten it on Black Friday when it was just crazy awesome deals. And then now this deal comes out and what? Everyone just bought a PS3? Are we going to see a bunch of people returning them all their Black Friday purchases and then picking up this 3D TV bundle? It seems very unlikely. It is a good situation though, because obviously if you are interested in a 3D TV, then you might as well get the PS3 for an extra $100 if you don't already own it. But again, I feel like most people who would even consider this bundle to begin with probably already have a PS3. So that addition kind of doesn't do a whole heck of a lot for them. Anyways, that's it. If you're interested in this PS3 TV bundle, 3D, so awesome, you can see everything up in your face. It turns out that EA is looking to add to the Dead Space franchise, planning on adding further games to the franchise other than your typical Dead Space game that you've come to know and love. Now, if you don't know, Dead Space is kind of a action horror survival game where you play as this character going through basically these infested ships, and it's a lot of fun. Dead Space 1 and Dead Space 2 I had a great time with, but they're planning to take it in a completely new direction. Rumored plans of a Dead Space first-person shooter, flight game, and Uncharted type of game. So essentially they're looking to add on to the franchise. They want to take the Dead Space universe and branch it out into different game types. Again, a first-person shooter, a flight game, who cares about that, and an Uncharted type game. If anything out of those three, I think I would like to probably see the Uncharted style of game, maybe a little more kind of adventure and discovery, although that does seem fairly akin to how the Dead Space franchise is already. Now, out of these options, which of the three would you like to see, if any? Do you want to see a Dead Space first-person shooter, a Dead Space flight game, or a Dead Space Uncharted style game? Or do you just want Dead Space 3 and have them keep to their initial gameplay, the action survival horror type game? Which one of those options would you guys like to see? The pirates strike again. In a recent interview with PC Gamer, CD Projekt's CEO stated that based on information from tracking illegal download websites, it is estimated that 4.5 million copies of The Witcher 2 have been illegally downloaded. 4.5 million illegally downloaded copies. That just blows the mind. Astronomical numbers of, what should have very well been purchases. Now, I understand the arguments of people who say, I download the game to try it out, but this is not a title that should be illegally downloaded so widespread. The Witcher 2 is an amazing game, and money should be going to the developers and the game company for a game like this. Now, again, this is an estimation, and there is no telling how many of those illegally downloaded purchases, how many of those illegal downloads turned into purchases, if there was any sort of a strong turnover rate. Again, the argument that people try out these games by pirating can lead us to believe that, hey, out of this 4.5 million, maybe a bunch of them want to turn around and actually purchase the game after realizing, wow, this is a lot of fun. Again, The Witcher 2 is amazing, an absolutely phenomenal game. It's almost something that I ended up actually covering on the channel. Just came a little bit too late, basically, in my production cycle. But the point is that having such astronomical illegal download numbers is pretty crazy. Now, to put this in reference, they have sold 1 million legal copies. So 4.5 million illegal downloads to 1 million legal copies of what with all due respect, is an awesome game. Now, in terms of how they plan to combat this, in the interview, he basically stated that their plans are to have value added to legal copies of the game, and also to inform the gaming community about how it's the right thing to do to buy legally as opposed to illegally downloading. What are we talking about in form of value added? Well, basically, if you purchase a new copy of the game, they want to make sure that there's extra incentive to do so. So maybe that means a CD key or a code key that when you purchase the game illegally, you get this extra awesome content. They don't plan to go to DRM at all with the Witcher franchise. They said that this is not in their plan. This is not in their game plan, which I'm sure will relieve many of you, as DRM seems to be a pretty heated issue. But value added and educating the community, I also think that those are the two greatest things that they could do. And once again, while we don't know the turnover, 4.5 million illegal copies download as opposed to 1 million sold, that's pretty crappy for CD Projekt, to be perfectly honest. But what do you guys think? What I want to know from you is, what can they do? Don't just say make a better game. What can they do to incentivize buying new copies of the game as opposed to illegally downloading? Please let me know below. And lastly, in news, it does appear like multiplayer will be coming to BioWare's Dragon Age series. This is a rumor that is going around, but it does feel fairly solid. You have to keep in mind that BioWare did add multiplayer to their Mass Effect series, and the likelihood of it coming to Dragon Age is fairly solid. Now, whether that's going to be in the form of DLC in a current Dragon Age game, or if it's going to be in the next iteration of the Dragon Age series, we don't know that yet, but they do apparently plan to add multiplayer to this. Now, this is going to raise the question: taking this single player experience, these single player RPG games, and adding multiplayer to them, is this a good thing or is this a problem? You look at a game like Skyrim. Skyrim's an amazing first person game. What would it have been like if they had to put development time into adding multiplayer? Would that be good? Would that be bad? Would it take too much away from the single player experience if they had to spend time and development time and money to actually try to incorporate a multiplayer game? This is a big argument, and this is a big question, and what I want to know from you guys is, personally, do you think that it's good that they will be adding multiplayer to the Dragon Age franchise, or would you like to see these typically single player RPGs just stay that way? And then lastly, we will be wrapping things up with a question for today. What I'd like to know from you guys is, based on the new information of the plans for the Dead Space franchise, of iterating onto it and adding new genres of the game, is there any franchise in the gaming industry that you would like to see expanded upon? Would you like to see a particular RPG turned into an MMO? Would you like to see an MMO turned into an RTS? Is there any gaming franchise, any gaming universe that you would like to see different game types of? Me personally, I would like a Diablo MMO. Blizzard, get on it. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Force Feed. As always, stay tuned tomorrow for another episode keeping you up to date on all recent gaming news and announcements. This has been Force, and you've just been force fed.